reminder, this is a live show happening every Saturday. You can join us here on Twitch or check out the archive on YouTube, Spotify, wherever else we're looking. Today on Locked Loot, we're going to be talking about Heroscape. That's an old game that's coming back with a vengeance.
Yeah. A lot of memories going into that game.
Whole lot of memories. I'm your host, Isaiah. That is Dragon Master Jacob. And this is Locked Loot. If you notice some problems going on, my chroma key is misbehaving, to say the least. So why don't you kick it off with how Heroscape was, because there's a lot of history in this game.
I mean, it's really cool because Heroscape was one of the very few games when we were kids, we'd go over to the neighbors and play it. It was just one of those few games that you were able to pick up at like Walmart or Target, and it was almost like an entry level into tabletop war games.
Which is great. Like, it had this feel of wargaming with the tiles and terrain, and then it still had the kind of tabletop board game feel and the simplicity that came with it.
Yeah, and it was a really good way for a lot of people to get into the game, into the wargaming community. The hard part was with the wargaming community, a lot of it is based in painting your minis and stuff like that, and that was one thing that Heroscape wanted to eliminate, is you having to worry about painting, because a lot of people, I mean, I suck at painting. I still need to learn that, but that's going to take a while.
Painting is its own skill set. So the thing about Heroscape that made it so different than other games of the time was the fact that it was in big box store. It still had a level of simplicity to it that other war games didn't have. You didn't have to read 10 books to play this game.
And not only that, but if I remember, it did have a story to go with it, but it wasn't like as massive as Warhammer, where you had tons and tons of different
the densest lore you've ever seen.
I mean, I'd probably end up reading that for maybe a year and a half, 2 years straight, just so I can understand the lore of Warhammer. Heroscape had a lot simpler lore, which was nice.
Yeah, and it was a wild lore too. It did not need to make complete sense. We're like, we got killer robots, we got Valkyries, we've got dragons, we've got agents from the future, and we've got all this stuff, like, all blended together and done very well. Another thing that helped was that the game was pretty balanced. Into the history of Heroscape, there was a huge issue where it wasn't sold well. And what I mean by that is that the company behind it did not sell this in any reasonable way. So what they did is they first did master sets, which were fantastic. Master sets were a great idea. They got you a bunch of units, got you the terrain you needed to play. They were your starter set. And then how they sold individual units is where it fell flat, because what they did is they included hero units with individual units all in one box, which means if you needed one individual unit and it was just 3 hero units, you have to buy those. Or if you need a bunch of individual common units, you'd buy all the common units. But they sold the heroes as a set together. And so it's like, you buy one, or you have one of the heroes already, you don't need to buy another set.
But if you wanted more of the other ones that came with the heroes, you had to buy them. So the heroes kind of just got flooded into the market. So there was no, as far as rarity of the pieces, the heroes didn't have any rarity to them, because you had to have so many of them just to have an army of the minifigures that come with it.
Yeah, and so this game's existed throughout the early 2000s and was done really well throughout the early 2000s. The issue was in how they sold it. and it really hurt them as they did it, and eventually got the game canceled. Now, the game has had a cult following throughout. In fact, there was already an attempt by Avalon Hill to reboot the game back in 2020. That fell flat because of, again, Heroscape falling into the same trap that they did before: poor marketing and poor sales structure.
Yeah.
So how Avalon Hill did it was through essentially a Kickstarter. They needed to sell, I think it was like 250,000 copies of the game.
Jeez.
To move it into production. And they sold the box for $250.
Which that's not what Heroscape was. I mean, you could buy it in the big box stores, and it was a cheap and affordable game, is what it was.
Yeah, and for $250, it just was not worth it, and it's the only thing. It came with everything, and it's like, one, people don't just have $200 to drop on nostalgia bait.
Right.
And that's a discussion that we're going to have later, is about whether this new one is nostalgic bait. Because I'm happy for Heroscape's return. I'm so glad. The terrain was phenomenal.
I mean,
beautiful.
The terrain, it was one of the best terrains that you could have, because it wasn't just used for Heroscape.
Still is. Heck, the hex stuff, the hexes are brilliant. And in the announcement for these, for the upcoming set, they said, hey, no, this is great to use in other things as well. The terrain is just well focused with a hex design, modular, stackable, beautiful design to it.
It was a phenomenal design, and it stands up to the test of time, because, I mean, we still have, I don't know how many sets we have, and it was... We've used it for different games. I mean, I think there was one point we were playing Legion and we used it as terrain. We've done, what was it? Magic the Gathering came out with a board game.
Yeah.
That was, 2015, 16,
Sometime
I think, like
around
that. And we used it for that because it included pieces from Heroscape that they were new pieces that came with very few, but we're like, well, we have an entire set. We could build our own terrain for this entire game.
Yeah, you could build your entire terrain. You saw Jake was talking there. His camera froze. So
Oh, whoops. I didn't even notice.
The mic didn't freeze, which is good. So if you're watching on the video, you'll notice he was still for a moment, but he was talking. Yeah, the terrain was phenomenal. It is still phenomenal. The game structure as a whole is amazing. And it's one of those games that's like, it did poorly because of how the sales structure was. Hasbro, I think it was Hasbro at the time, did not know how to run this game, so they ran it like a board game. Heroscape needed more of a war game feel to it, and that's where we're coming to today.
Yeah.
Renegade Games, which is another group that works with they're owned by Hasbro, essentially saw Avalon Hill screw up and grabbed the game.
They went, hold my beer and watch this.
I know. They literally, watch this. And they're like, it's still there. The community is still there. And if it's not, we will rebuild it. Because Avalon Hill, I felt like when they were released, they were like, we're going to release this and then do nothing with it. Like other
they
games.
didn't seem to have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
While Renegade, they have a plan that they want to go through.
Renegade doesn't just have a plan. They're like, this could be big. And we're like, yeah, it could be. Everyone who's still in the community for Heroscape is going, yeah, this still can be huge. And that's where we're coming to today with the Heroscape, because recently we intended to record this last week, the day after it had came out, but due to some technical issues, our computer blue screened.
Yeah. It decided it wanted to die on us, but I think we got it back on life support.
Yeah, well, we fixed it. It's not on life support anymore. I think we got some repairs actually done. But they showed off all of the new stuff that's coming, and they structured it so well. So this is where I'm excited for the future of Heroscape because Renegade is putting the work in. They didn't just say, we're going to release everything together as a big set. No, they went, we have some plans for this. We're going to release 3 different little sets here. We're going to release a little starter set, a master set, and a terrain kit.
I mean, for us, we don't necessarily need the terrain kit. We might get it for some of the new pieces in it, but I mean, we have.
That's assuming that the master set doesn't come with the wellspring.
I think we have like 3 or 4 of the original master sets.
So a little background on us. Back in high school, a lot. We got a hold of a lot. Back in high school, our parents got a hold of a lot that had just a ton of Heroscape stuff. And then recently, I picked up from a game store. They were selling off their old Heroscape box, and it completed our kit. So we have everything.
Yeah, we have the entire set, all of the pieces.
But that's anecdotal. Back to what Renegade is doing, and I'm going to be putting it up on screen. First things first, we got ourselves a master set.
Yes, which is awesome. For them to release a new master set is great because it's a larger piece that somebody could get and they could jump in and have a game with their friends. They could bring their friends over and have a game. The smaller set that they're also releasing, that is something that you could take to a game store and join in on a game, on a group with people. So having that master set is a great idea for them, just so that way you can still have a little bit of that board game aspect where you can have your friends over to play. Yep.
Which is great because it's like for the little guys that kind of are saying, I don't know if I want to get into this. The Wellspring set, which is their starter set, which is what we're actually showing right here. 6 units, small battlefield, still includes everything to play small games. Is perfect. And guess what the price point on this is?
I think it was, what was it, 150?
That is for the master set.
I'm getting the master set confused.
This little set is $50.
Oh, that's not bad. I mean,
for what it includes. So look at this. So it
is that the painted version or the unpainted version?
That's the unpainted version.
Okay, I think it was
100 for the painted.
I thought it was 80.
80, somewhere around there.
It wasn't too much more for the full painted set, which was good.
Sorry, I'm looking to see if 48 for it unpainted. But it's really well done, and that's what I like about this. And you can see that here. This one includes, of course, the die, some dice, the hex tiles. This has jungle trees according to its components.
And as far as when I watched the release video, the jungle trees are supposed to be actually fairly large.
They're huge, and we'll show them off later. We're focusing on this one. So
I'm excited to see them because I haven't seen a picture of them yet.
So yeah, this is everything that's coming in the Wellspring. It's also including a new tile piece called a Wellspring tile, which is phenomenal, first of all.
Right.
It's a brilliant idea. When you step on it, you roll a die. On a above 12, you heal. And I think if you roll 1 or 2, you take damage. Yeah. So you're gambling with some healing there, which is great. And especially because it's supposed to represent this magic, wild magic. I think it's a good representation. We're still showing off some of the miniatures here. It can include 6. Personally, I do not like the painted minis. And there's a reason behind it. So even if you look at Heroscape stuff from today, before this big release, the Heroscape minis did not look very good up close. And that's just because painted in a large manufacturing, you lose details.
Yeah, they're trying to get them out the door, and they're not trying to focus on the details. And that's where, like he was saying, the painting, I mean, they look great. They still look really good for when you first get into the game. But as you get more into war games, you'll see just how good people can paint their own minis.
Which is why when I get this, I'm getting the unpainted. Because that fox guy there, you bet I'm painting him up, and he is going to look badass.
Yeah, I mean, it looks good. It looks a lot like just a set color all the way across. And then they added a couple of other colors. But, I mean...
The paint looks too thick for miniatures, is what it is. And that's the problem with assembly line painting, is the painting looks too thick. The thing about when you're painting miniature, you want thin coats. That way you don't mess with recesses, you don't have any of those problems. On top of that, these guys are lacking weathering effects. And that's just my painting stuff coming into play here, and why I'm not too fond of
He's
the
a
painting
painter,
minis,
I'm not.
because I am the painter. I painted my Legion stuff. Painted some Armada stuff. I'm painting the rest of my Armada fleet for Adepticon. But I'm like, these guys need weathering effects. These guys need something. And I'm like, yes, that's the thing.
Where you're saying that it looks like the paint's too thick, it honestly looks like in like the main color of the body, it looks like they dipped into the paint and then flipped it over.
Yep. That's probably how it happened with the assembly line stuff. But I'm like, I understand that. And I understand why they did the painting stuff. Because there was a huge backlash when Avalon Hill originally came out and said, we are not doing painted minis. Because of that, when Renegade picked it up, they said, well, we can do both. We can have a marked up painted version and a cheaper unpainted version. And I'm like, give me the unpainted version. I will take my time. I will paint them. They'll look fantastic.
Not only that, but I wish I could get a look at what they look like when they come out of the box unpainted, because I'm curious if they are assembled when they come out of the box.
They did state they come assembled.
Okay. Because, I mean, you look at like Warhammer or Legion or a lot of these other games, you have to assemble the mini. And, I mean, like for Legion, I feel bad for the people that built their battle droids, because, I mean, those pieces are so tiny and so easy to break. It would terrify me to put those together.
Yeah. Oh, man. Okay, so I got the information here. The Wellspring Painted, which is they call it a premium painted version, $65.
Yeah, I didn't think it was much more.
See, and it's just because there's only 6 minis. The only difference is they had to paint 6 minis.
Yeah.
Moving on from this, and I'm going to talk about why this is such a good thing before we move on. $65 painted. It's saying $45 unpainted. That's cheap.
Which that's what they were known for.
And this is perfect for your tabletop 2-player games. I want to introduce you to the game.
Yeah, this entire game, this is how I want to say this is how me and Isaiah got into war games, was through Heroscape, because our neighbor had the game and we started playing, gosh, I think when we were maybe 10.
Younger than that. And like Mom and Dad got us the Marvel Heroscape.
I mean,
it was such a good thing, and they did such good work with it, and I'm disappointed that it fell through. And now that it's coming back, we're like, yes, finally. And they're putting so much work into it. This one, okay, moving on from this one, because the next one we need to talk about is, of course, the Master Set.
Oh, I hope the Master Set comes with some of the new Wellspring tiles, because it would be great to set them up in different areas. I mean,
it does not have the Wellspring tiles.
So you can only get them in the Wellspring?
Yep.
Gee, that'd make things difficult, because I know that I think the terrain set comes with like 3 or 4 of them. But the actual Wellsprings, I think it would be a great way of adding small details where it's just this hidden pool somewhere on your map that you could step in, it'd be great. I mean, then again, getting some of the minifigures in a small area is kind of difficult sometimes, depending on how large they are.
Yeah, so this thing comes with a boatload of terrain. 74 hex tile terrain pieces. 6 of them being the big 24 tiles, 4 being the 7s, 2 of the 3s, 6 of the 2s. There is so much terrain in here.
Yeah. This is... the hard part is actually storing it.
Storage is always an issue. We've got them in boxes. But also, this thing comes with 20 miniatures.
Oh, wow.
3 squads.
That's not bad.
20 minis. It's really well done. And then the terrains comes with the walls as well. Let me see if I can get some. Here it is. It comes with the walls. So and the shiny blue water tiles.
Those are actually new wall tiles because we don't have those.
Those are brand new. Those are brand new for Age of Annihilation.
Because we had kind of like a ruined wall set up, as well as we have the castle set as well, where you can fully build a castle. So to see that they're adding a new wall set is kind of cool.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, I think they talked about 7. So they 24, 23 different wall pieces, which is great. It's going to add some versatility to the map, and the wall looks good.
And like he was saying, they're not going to the original blue style. They're doing the what is it called?
The sparkly blue.
Yeah. It's got
the sparkly blue kit was not in the original Heroscape stuff, but in later Heroscape stuff, you started getting some sparkly blue tiles. I think it was starting with like the ice stuff. I can't remember, but the sparkly blue just looks better.
Yeah, it basically has a little bit of glitter mixed into it.
Yeah, and of course the miniatures, because they're introducing new factions. You've got miniatures from every faction. You've got the bears, the armored bears. You've got more Valkyries. You've got the dragon. You've got pirates. Jake hates this, but as you saw in the Wellspring, there is a new Morrow.
I hate the Morrow.
He just hates the Morrow because I'm really good with the Morrow.
They have so many characters. I mean, the Morrow has a massive army.
And like, if you take squads, they operate in very distinct ways, which is really cool. Now, again, let's take a look. We've got one with all the miniatures there. The miniatures look good.
Oh, yeah.
That's what matters. That is what really matters. Is that these miniatures look good. And this is painted, which means some of the details are probably missing.
Yeah, and when people paint them themselves, I mean, the wings alone, they could change the wings to look just absolutely phenomenal with different painting techniques that I've seen some people almost make them look like the Wellspring tiles, how the Wellspring tiles look with the reflective kind of shimmer effect. It would be really cool to see that on the wings. And that's one thing that would be really cool with being able to paint it yourself, is you could do stuff like that.
Now, another thing that they're focusing on is scenarios.
I don't remember playing very many.
We don't play scenarios.
Yeah. Heck, I didn't even know they existed.
They were in the original one. There were some scenarios. The thing about scenarios and why I think they still have a place is they're a good way to lead somebody through different games of Heroscape. Yeah. As somebody's learning, you can get a lot of experience playing on different table types, playing with different layouts, different units, and learning how different rules play in. But this master set, dude, I am so happy. So what they said is this master set is 125.
Unpainted, I think, was 125.
Yeah, 125 unpainted. And this is where people kind of got mad.
The 225 for it being painted.
225 for the painted.
Which I think that is a little overpriced for it being painted. I understand there is a lot of minifigures in it.
Well, I also want to take a look at these and why I think that's actually a fair price, because you don't think this is fair.
That is a high price for painted minifigures.
But I want you to look at all the different colors that are involved.
Yeah, it just depends on how they have things being assembled,
and then painted. So it could just be that the cost of it was very high to paint, and that was a warning that people gave when this was coming out. Like, if you were going to have painted, they would be much more expensive because painted minis, unless you're getting Chinese slave labor, is expensive.
Yeah, and I mean, it also depends on how they were made, because I mean, if somebody was pre-painting Warhammer stuff and it was all disassembled, they could legitimately just dip each piece and then assemble it afterwards.
Yeah,
which would cut down costs. But if it's a single mold, like if I remember right, they all used a single mold.
Old Heroscape was injection molded,
and they didn't come apart whatsoever, so they had to paint them. They had to paint them individually almost.
Now, what I want to focus on, though, is some of the community feel that this is a promise broken. Okay? Because I think there was some time in the past, I can't remember if it was Avalon Hill or if it was Renegade or kind of where, because I never actually saw this. I'm getting this as secondhand information. But apparently the community is seeing this as a promise broken. Because somebody said, I don't know if it was in a talk about it on the Discord, that the painted set would be no more than, I think it was 30% more than the original. Not the original, but the unpainted. So the painted would be 30% more than the unpainted.
Which I don't know where they would have heard that.
I'm not sure. I haven't seen anything official. It could have been somebody on the Discord. It could have been somebody in the Heroscapers forum. But people are seeing this as a promise broken, because this is more than 80% markup. And I'm going, okay, but the cost of painting is so high. There's a reason why other groups don't paint their minis, because of how much it takes.
Well, not only that, but it would be easier for the other companies to paint their minis than Heroscape, because the other companies, like we were saying, you have to assemble them. So it makes it easier to paint when you can just paint the whole thing individual pieces and then send it off to be for the player to assemble. They're injection molded as the actual minis, so you can't just paint individual pieces of it. You have to paint the entire thing at once.
Yeah, and I'm like, you said it was overpriced. I do agree.
I don't think it's much overpriced, but it is.
Would you say 200's fair?
I'd say probably about
175.
180 to 200 it would be fair. It would be somewhat fair.
It would be more fair. The 225 just feels like they just were like, we need an extra $100.
Yeah.
I really like the price point, though. The 125 price point on the unpainted, with all the terrain that you're getting, with all also, for reference, the terrain is painted no matter what.
Yeah, it always has been. And I don't even think it's painted, because I don't remember ever being able to scratch the paint off of it.
No, it's just how it's made.
Yeah, they use. It's pretty much a dual color injection molding system that they use for the terrain pieces originally, if I remember right.
But and that's the thing, none of that changes anything. It's still, you're getting a lot for this. Like, other starter sets, you would not get this much.
What's even better is this game is also really good for the 3D printing community, because, I mean, before this was even released, the 3D printing community had made tiles that would fit with the game that you could print on your own. And now they're releasing more stuff, so you can add the 3D printing your own minifigures or your own trees and other wall terrains with it. That's the great part about war games, is you can use outside tools to build up your own, what is it called, set, pretty much.
Everything's so customizable because of the 3D printing crowd nowadays. Yeah. New terrain, new stuff. I think I saw somebody like completely print a castle, like an actual castle for this. There's so much going into it. Now, the last release that they're having along with these other two is, of course, the terrain set.
What was amazing is also the fact that even with the terrain set, the in the stream that they were doing for the release video, they talked about them using 3D models to see the trees. He said that they printed off a 3D model of the tree so that way they could see what it would actually look like afterwards.
That's to scale, guys.
That is a big tree.
That is a big tree. They said these are supposed to represent 11 height.
Wow.
These things are huge. And I'm like, we're getting another tree sample. This just comes with 6 brush pieces, 3 trees, and a setup. It doesn't come with wellsprings. The wellspring is only in the wellspring. I think that's a failure. I think that's a failure, not having the wellspring and other stuff.
No, the wellspring, they should have put the wellspring in the terrain set. Because that's what it's supposed to be for, is extra terrain pieces to add to your game. Only being able to get to the wellspring tiles in that specific set is kind of a bummer because you put it into this terrain set, we would want to buy the terrain set as well, even though we have a massive amount of terrain. We have tons.
we have the old jungle too.
Yeah.
But this new one is a much smaller set. It's literally just the terrain piece. And they're testing this. They're wondering if people would be interested in just buying the terrain. And I kind of understand that. So where I would actually, for them, push this for their other games and push it towards the wargaming community as a whole. That way, when you do your master sets, you could sell like all the terrain from do a terrain starter set, or it's just the terrain. And you could sell just the terrain.
Yeah. You look at, like we were saying, terrain can be utilized in almost any war game. You look at Warhammer, people spend, I don't know how many hours 3D printing and painting their own terrain and buildings and obstacles. And, Legion has the same thing. I've seen people do, for tattooing, I think they've done it out of ceramic, the ceramic huts. It's amazing. We don't get. Oh, I just lost my train of thought.
It's all right. We don't there's so many different terrain types, and this can be used for so many different purposes, like D&D. They mentioned their G.I. Joe game. This terrain would be fantastic for. So what I would like them to see is push this terrain. Not just as Heroscape terrain, but also as terrain for their other games, because you could just sell the terrain sets.
Oh yeah, you could easily sell the terrain sets. People have been trying to 3D print their own terrain sets for a long time.
That underbrush looks big too. It's bigger than a mini.
Right? Which, I guess, would underbrush be considered... Wait, doesn't Heroscape have a cover system? I can't remember. I thought it did.
I don't think it has a cover system. I think it has line of sight systems.
Okay, so that could technically block line of sight.
Yeah, so it could block line of sight. It does have, I don't think it directly has a cover system, but it pseudo covers. So, if you're higher than somebody else, you get extra defense, and then if you're an extra attack. I'm not sure. I have to double check the rules. I haven't played in a while. I've been focused on Armada, so I need to double check the rules. Now, last thing that we need to talk about with this is why I'm saying Renegade is putting in the work. Now, they're not just saying we're going to release a new set of the game with new miniatures and call it good. They're adding community support.
which is amazing. I mean, them to start out with community support, and we were talking about this before, they're also coming out with an army builder, which is amazing.
Every game has an army builder. Most of them are made third party, except for I think Warhammer. I think Warhammer's is first party, but like Legion stuff was made by Fifth Trooper. Armada stuff is done by Ryan Kingston. Shatterpoint's probably got it out there, but tournament software, ways to find tournaments, army builder, and player pages, like they are putting in the work. Look at this launch stuff.
You just smacked the camera.
Oh, I killed your camera.
Yeah.
There we go. Oh, that's what's causing it. So when I move my hand like this, hi, my hand's down here. When I move my hand like this, I'm smacking a cord that attaches to a USB piece that's attached to his camera, and I'm knocking it loose and killing his camera, and I did it again.
Hey, I'm back again. There we go.
But, yeah, so, first of all, they're coming out with a launch event. Big thing, they're doing a big push at Gen Con and a huge launch tournament. And then for game stores, they're like, yeah, we're pushing this towards game stores. We want Heroscape communities in the game stores.
Yeah.
And then, of course, a competitive environment.
Which is great. I mean, as a kid, we didn't really do any competitions. And I don't ever remember looking into competitions for Heroscape. I want to say there still was. There was some.
This was also an age before the internet.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't really look up a whole lot.
But
why do you make me feel old?
I know. Not that old. By not the age of the internet, we had the internet, but Google was still in its early stages. We're talking mid 2000s, well, early 2000s. So.
Yeah.
But having store championships, regional championships, and a world championship.
Which, what I love is it this year that they're doing a event? Is it at Gen Con?
Yep, Gen Con. They are doing the 20th anniversary championship.
Which is awesome. I want to know. I would love to see how that turns out. I think, if I remember, Isaiah's going down to Gen Con this year.
Yep. But I'm going for something else, so I won't be able to compete.
Yeah, you won't be able to compete, but you could at least stop by and take a look to see.
100%. I'm going to ask the Renegade guys. So what I'm going down for is I have signed up to be a convention GM down in Indianapolis for Renegade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, and Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah.
So you'll see me there, just like you'll see me at Adepticon for Armada. Now, back to kind of this. They're putting in the work. Overall, this release is so well done.
Oh, yeah. I mean, not only are they tying into the nostalgia aspect of this game and how many people loved playing it and they want to have their kids play it with them, but they're also setting it up for them to add on and continue the game. Which that's one thing that we were concerned about, is that this would be just something that they're throwing out there to kind of get people to buy it up, and that's it. To see them actually push to bring the game back fully is amazing.
Yeah, to push as much as hard as they are, they want to make this a dedicated success and their dedicated war game.
Yeah,
because like they have Axis and Allies, which has its own community, but nothing as widely available as like Heroscape. Heroscape is so widely available, it's so easy to learn that it's like all you got to do is find somebody who has the pieces right now, and that's the problem. You got to find people who have the pieces, and now that the sales are coming out, and they're like anybody can get a hold of it.
Which also means that those original sets, they're skyrocketing in price, and
100%.
I mean, we've got a lot of sets. So.
But yeah, it's so great that this is happening, and Heroscape coming back. And we talked about he touched on this just now, but the idea that this is just nostalgia bait, the fact that they're putting so much work into organized play, helps me nullify and helps me, get past this is just nostalgia bait, because it's like, if this was nostalgia bait, they would not be building tournament software, building army builders, launching events,
and
world's tournaments. They wouldn't be putting this much work into something that they were hoping just to sell as nostalgia bait.
And if I remember right, in the release video, they were also talking about that they're also wanting to work on more sets and adding more to the game. And I mean, they put a lot of testing just into the sets that they're releasing now, both with the current, with what they're releasing and the balance between what they're releasing and the original sets. I mean, mainly because the original game was very balanced. I mean, I want to say for the Mara, I hate the Mara, but the automatons countered the Mara very well, if I remember right.
Yeah, except for the automatons have 1 health.
Yeah. But they can mow people down.
But like I said, they're putting so much work into this that it very much alleviates any problems that we have, and I'm happy to see Heroscape return. I'm happy with the price point as well.
Yeah,
for the unpainted stuff. As cheap it is as it is, it's like, for what it is, you get a ton with it, and it's not the crap that Avalon Hill tried to pull with the $250 set.
Yeah, which the only thing that I've always...
And they've announced that this is just Wave 1, by the way.
Yeah.
This isn't the Heroscape release. This is Wave 1, and it comes out in August.
Which, there is one thing about just Heroscape in general that always drove me nuts, and that was the shape of the cards. Mainly because they were extremely hard to store, and when you look at it like games now... Printing. Well, now we have 3D printing, but with how we have games now with the just rectangle cards and sleeves and everything for them, these seem like then again, they didn't have a huge issue with card rarity.
No. Let me talk about this, and this is hilarious. Do you know why?
Why?
When Avalon Hill tried to release this game originally, they tried to do it, rebooted originally, they tried to do it with square cards.
With the rectangle cards?
Uh-huh. The community bullied them into changing it.
Really? The thing is, I didn't like the cards all that much because they were just so hard to store and keep track of and keep protected.
Tried. The community bullied them into changing back.
But then when me and Isaiah were talking about it, the cards, they didn't have much rarity in the cards.
But cards don't matter. They're just unit cards. It's like Legion cards. They're just unit cards and Armada cards.
Well, even Legion has special promos and stuff like that in their cards.
And I think we'll be seeing that with Heroscape. We'll be seeing promo cards.
But those are just so hard to store and keep protected that I don't think that they would do promo cards. I see them doing promo minifigures.
They're doing promo minis. They may not do promo cards. Honestly, those things are impossible to sleeve.
You can't
never sleeve it.
There's no way to sleeve them.
But nowadays we have 3D printing for storage, which means you could literally just take one of those, make a sculpt, and build a little box to store them.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's all the time that we got today.
And this was, I'm excited about the game coming out. It'll be this August, right?
Yeah, August.
And we're hoping to talk about it more probably then.
Oh, 100%. As we see more, and as they reveal the next wave as well, because I think the next wave's set for December.
Oh, I didn't know it would be coming out that soon.
Yeah, they announced 2 waves in 2024.
That's amazing.
Which is great. And so I'm like, great, we're getting the stuff out quickly. They'll be able to work on their own stuff, get away from the Avalon Hill, and work on their own stuff a lot more. That's all the time that we got. We really got to get moving. You can catch us for our after show stuff. After our streams, we always play some Zelda.
Yep.
I'm your host, Isaiah.
I'm Dragon Master Jake.
We're logging out. Oh, of course. You made it this far. Like, subscribe, follow. Check us out on podcasts on any podcast platform. And lastly, check out our social media. I put some stuff on Twitter every once in a while. I think they call it X. I'm never calling it X. It's Twitter.
It's always been Twitter.
And Instagram. I'll catch you guys later.